Okay, so just want to go into a few of these details here by the councillor Alex Beckett in his responses to these questions, because I just wanted to highlight a couple of these moments because they're sort of revealing of the kind of character the sort of politician that he is. Um, and I also wanted to just show, that there are people out here who can analyse political behaviour and interpret it and see what's going on behind the surface. Straight away, Rory Comyn asks him point blank, did you stand on a manifesto pledge to bring in this congestion charge, yes or no? And he stands up and launches into some sprawling speech narrative about the virtues of the consultation and how it's a nuanced, complicated subject, that kind of thing. Classic politician behaviour to dodge a question. It's something that we've seen so many times by now. And, it just shows you that's the style of politician that he is. The next point that he makes, which I think is very, very pertinent, and which we should all bear in mind and remember, is him saying this.
Now, as you know, the proposals as they currently stand do not have any form of charging being implemented until 2028. There is a long time to go before this. There will be further elections for all of this. There will be many, many chances for people to have their say and to have their voices heard. Thank you.
The proposed congestion charge will not be brought in until 2028, if at all. And between now and 2028, there's going to be numerous local elections which will give people more than enough opportunity to vote this thing down if that's how they feel. And that's a very true point which we shall all remember, and I hope that Alex Beckett bears this in mind, that between now and 2028, the trajectory, the trend which we've already started to see is people going to be voting away from Liberal, Democrat and Labour on this issue and towards whichever candidates stand up and say that they're going to vote against it. And so I just wanted to highlight that point because it's a very interesting and true point. This thing is not over. It's going to be a long story, and every time there's a local election, I'm sure we're going to see in the demographics and the voting turnout breakdown percentages, more and more people voting against Liberal Democrats and Labour because of this. Another thing that he goes on to say, which I find quite interesting, and this is a common Liberal Democrat tactic which I've noticed during this, is that they'll bring in answer to a question or as a justification for what they're doing, they'll bring in some kind of like personal story or some sort of personal knowledge of a subject, like, oh, I know Mill Road very well from when I used to go there with my granddad, or I know the pubs of Mill Road well, or him here saying,
I know myself. I have to thank the staff of Addenbrooke's for the help they've given to my family. Personally, I'll never forget having to rush my wife there from my wedding engagement party and standing by her bed for the next week as she recovered from serious illness. I'll never forget saying goodbye to one of my friends in the Papworth.
As if having some kind of personal connection to it yourself gives more weight to the argument of what you're doing. It doesn't. Everybody's got different experiences about what it is, and I also just think that it's quite a low down, dirty tactic to bring in the story of your wife's illness and the death of your friend of cancer into a political debate, because now you're using those stories to give yourself political advantage somehow in an argument. And how does the memory of the sad memory of your friend dying of cancer justify bringing in a congestion charge or refusing a referendum? It doesn't. They have nothing to do with that. But it's just revealing of the kind of politician that he is by saying that kind of thing. He doesn't stick to the facts. He wants to bring in the emotions, and but it doesn't have anything to do with a congestion charge or the referendum. Those two backstories there. Again, I just thought that was a revealing part of his response. And then he also goes on to say that,
representing Queen Edith's on the border of Addenbrooke's, I know firsthand what misery inconsiderate drivers visiting the hospital can cause.
As if that has anything to do with introducing a congestion charge. How do inconsiderate drivers driving towards hospital justify bringing in a congestion charge? That the two don't equate to each other at all. What's the point in even saying that? You know, and you can't possibly say that because there are inconsiderate drivers on the road, we're justified in refuting a referendum or bringing in a congestion charge, because it has nothing to do with that. And you can't possibly be saying that all drivers heading towards down that route are irresponsible. That can't be true. So it's a spin, you know. It's a political device that he's using here, and it's quite a common political device, and it's obvious to see when you know what you're looking for. Anyway, there's that point. And this is another bit which I found very, very revealing, which is quite sort of remarkable, really. When Roy Stamp makes his speech here, basically he asks his question, and then Alex Beckett stands up and says,
Thank you. And thank you for coming and asking your question. I actually thought you were going to ask a question about foster carers, but that's fine.
No, that's because that was times 3 points.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
oh, you know, I thought that weren't you supposed to be asking me a question about foster carers? And Roy Stamp says, well, yeah, I had to edit down the speech because I was later told that it was actually 2 minutes, not 3 minutes, so I had to cut that bit out. And Alex Beckett's actually visibly thrown off and confused. He's like, oh, I thought you were going to talk about foster carers. Anyway, never mind. And that just shows you so clearly that he's not thinking on his feet here. All of his responses are pre-prepared statements which he's written, you know, for his own script. And if a curveball gets thrown to him or something unexpected happens, like Roy Stamp cutting his speech, then all of a sudden he doesn't know how to respond. So actually, the response which Councillor Beckett gives to Roy Stamp's question is not an answer to the question which he asked at the time, because he had a pre-prepared speech, a pre-prepared script, and so he just goes ahead and reads that. Again, just a revealing trait, telling you the kind of political operator that Alex Beckett is. Oh yeah, and then there's this interesting sort of upturning of logic. He's saying that his reason for refusing to back the call for a referendum is because it would be undemocratic to ignore the results of the consultation, and we owe it to the respondents of the consultation to listen to them.
Now, we owe it to the 28,000 people that replied to look through those responses. We owe it to them all. We really do. To be able to set that aside would be the least democratic thing that we ever did as a council.
Yeah, all right, fine, that's true on its own, but nobody's asking you to ignore the results of the consultation. All they're doing is asking you to offer a proper, widespread, comprehensive vote, which would be verifiable and done officially, rather than this flimsy and dubious consultation process which they conducted themselves, which have all kinds of flaws and reasons why it's not credible on its own. And he argues that to give a referendum and ignore the consultation would be the most undemocratic thing this council could do. Again, it's just inverting the whole logic. Up is down, and down is up, and black is white, and white is black now. You know, they're just flipping it all on its head. But you can see, again, these things reveal the type of politician that he is. You know, he's clearly an ambitious guy. He's young. He's probably in it for the long haul. He's a career politician. You can see how ambitious he is from his picture. Look at the smile on his face. I just find it funny, curious and strange, and also quite appalling that all of these Liberal Democrat politicians and Labour ones who have come in since 2021 have they've gotten in on the back of the pandemic, when politics was all up in the air at that time anyway, and straight away within their first year or two of becoming politicians, this is what they want to start doing. You know, driving through this thing completely undemocratically and against the will of the people, and using all of these lies and subversion tactics, you know, that we can see. It's quite shocking, actually.